We are all splitted. I'm with Marco Batitoshi that is in Indonesia. How are you doing, Marco?
Hi, Fernando. Hi, Diego. I'm doing great and happy to be here with you again.
And I'm with Immortal that is in Hong Kong. How are you doing?
Hi guys, what a communication we have today. Is the trifecta of 3 countries.
Yeah.
Of 3 different countries. I'm now in Bangkok, the capital city of Thailand, and we are going to discuss a couple of things that happened in this week. Saylor bought more Bitcoin. They are planning to raise $42 billion to buy more Bitcoin, and Capital B bought more Bitcoin. We have all of this to discuss, and also we are going to touch something that Marco is bringing. So let's go in deep to the presentation that we have for today. So, one second, present. Excellent. So, the first one is strategy buys 1,031 Bitcoin. Michael Saylor will keep buying forever. This week, strategy bought 1,031 Bitcoin at 74,326 per Bitcoin. As per today, they are holding 762,099 Bitcoin. What do we have to talk about that?
Well, we did a prediction on what day was it? On Monday before
On Monday,
the lunch.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I said it should be less than 1,000 because we didn't have any activity from Stretch in the previous week. So I was guessing that only the MSTR the MSTR issuance was the one producing Bitcoin, and 1,000 feels like fair enough for the movement of the Bitcoin price. Also, that week wasn't great at all. It was just moving up and down, staying in the same range. Then on Friday we have a fucking big crash with fake news. So it wasn't a great week to accumulate Bitcoin. Still, Saylor produced another 1,000 per week. And the good news is also that during the first 3 months of the year, we are averaging 7,000 Bitcoins per week. So it's around 1,000 per day, which is 2.5 of the daily Bitcoin production, only with strategy.
Yeah, I have some slide to talk about that, about the weekly accumulation of Bitcoin on strategy. And yes, last week we can say, oh, they just bought 1,031 Bitcoin, but even though in the middle of a crazy week with the war intensifying, with Trump saying that I will bomb all the energy producing in Iran, even though at that point Saylor managed to buy 1,031 Bitcoin. What do you think, Marco, about that?
Yeah, no, I think that even in one of the worst week for 2026, still strategy was able to eliminate 1,031 future altcoiner from the planet, accumulating the Bitcoin. And if we just multiply by 52 weeks in the year, it's still more than 52,000 Bitcoin, which is the same amount of the second largest public company, which is Marathon Digital Holdings, having around 53,000, I think, in their balance sheet. So I think now we are a bit detached from reality with strategy. We only want to see like 8,000, 15,000, 20,000 per week. But even on the worst case scenario of low acquisition rate for 1,000 is still pretty remarkable. And as you said, guys, I mean, we had a crazy week, very volatile to the downside, very uncertain from geopolitical perspective, and still strategy was able to raise without stretch. And once stretch will be again at 100, and we are very close, because I think yesterday stretch closed at $99.95, so 5 cents from parity. Once we will go back to 100, strategy will keep also ATMing the preferred. So.
Yeah, that was the other point, that the stretch was not on was last week always under 100, so that triggers that Saylor didn't buy so many Bitcoin. but even though they managed to accumulate more than 1,000.
Yeah.
So let's move to the next topic. Well, 42B to buy more Bitcoin. Strategy massive 42 billion capital raise could potentially enable the purchase of approximately 586,600 Bitcoin. The single raise would surpass Strategy's entire 2024 BTC haul. This is 21 billion for Stretch and 21 billion for Strategy.
Yeah.
Well,
plus,
yeah, Marco, go ahead.
Yeah. Plus, we can also remember that also on the other preferred, that we still have a lot of ATM, especially I think on Strike, because they said at the beginning for Strike was around 21 billion in ATM, and they just issue probably 1.5 billion. And I'm pretty bullish on Strike, especially if we come out this consolidation and Bitcoin can resume an accumulation phase and maybe even a bull run. So on top of Strike, another 42 billion from MSTR and Stretch. So I think, as you said, Fernando, 586,000 Bitcoin at those price, I think it's not sustainable. I think Bitcoin needs to reprice higher at some point, because otherwise Saylor literally will accumulate more than 5% of the supply in a short period of time. So I think it's not very likely. I think Bitcoin will start to run sooner, and still they will be able to deploy massive amount of money for the sustained rally for Bitcoin after. So pretty bullish, and I think the stock reacted pretty well despite a massive dilution from shareholders. So yeah.
What do you think? We were discussing. Yes, go on.
This was similar to the plan of last year when they do this plan of 21 plus 21 billion. So it's similar, but now they switch the focus into Stretch actually, which it has been the best performing of all the preferred stocks. I think it's a perfect evolution compared to the other preferred stock, which we can consider them the first iterations of a process that eventually lead into the most successful one, which is Stretch. So that's what I'm not sure if they're gonna be focusing that much on Strike, because the attractive feature for Strike was that I think is pegged to when MSTR reaches 1,000, then start behaving as a call option. And right now we're quite far from the 1,000, so MSTR we have to go 8x from here to reach that level, which make Strike still not that attractive because it has more volatility, and there is a long time frame ahead until it can be really profitable for investors. On the other hand, we discover that the market actually what the market wants is less volatility and a more predictable source of revenue instead of a more volatile, more Bitcoin maxi oriented product as Strike, right? So it's a better market fit for investors. That's why Stretch actually was most successful. So just to recap on that is like, I think the first iteration of product, Strike, Strife, I always forget the other one.
Stream.
Pride and Stream, the European one. These were all designed thinking about the Bitcoin maxis or the Bitcoiners in general. When the motto was Bitcoiners want to outperform Bitcoin, so we will need to create a product with higher volatility that can outperform Bitcoin. In the middle of that process, during all 2025, they found out that actually there is a bigger market, which is institutional adoption, that don't want any volatility. They do prefer a stock that just remain flat or with very low volatility at the fixed per price, and still can produce one of the highest the highest revenues of all other preferred stocks or bonds in the market. I think that's pretty much the evolution that we've seen with these preferred stocks.
Yes, totally agree on that. And yes, Saylor initially created the instrument for Bitcoiners, but he understood later that the niche is much bigger, and many people that are not Bitcoiners, they want to invest and avoid the volatility that Bitcoin have. I think that we, the Bitcoiners, we love volatility. We understand that it's part of the game. So we won't go for a fixed income. But on the other side, there are a lot of people that they don't like volatility and they would prefer to invest money on this that will, at the end of the day, convert into Bitcoin. The question that I have for you is the same question that we used to say at the beginning today in our Spanish stream. That is, do you think that strategy could reach 1 million per Bitcoin this year? I think we already discussed that, but
I hope not. Because if they do, I don't know, either the price of Bitcoin will keep depressed and maybe have a lower low maybe in the second half of the year. And it would be, I don't know, pretty outside of any prediction. My bold prediction, I think, when we have done together was 900,000 to 1 million, but to 1 million was more like, 100,000 is very close, but I wouldn't expect them to reach 1 million so quickly, to be honest. I would prefer to have more a slower pace driven by the fact that the Bitcoin price is recovering. So,
well, the thing is, when I remember when we do this exercise, I think I say all of us say something around 800 to 900,000 Bitcoin. But if you just stick to the current average purchase, which is 7,000 per week, if we just can keep that same pace, that means you get to 1 million pretty easily. Just not even increasing or increasing the pace of the acquisition, just following the current trend, he will reach to 1 million. Obviously, thinking that the price will not pump with this if we remain in between 70 and 100, because if the price goes to 150K now, and his ability to raise money remains flat, then the amount of Bitcoin will be lower. But it's a little bit counterintuitive, because also could mean that if the price of Bitcoin go way higher, his ability to raise money will also grow exponentially. So maybe we still keep the pace of 7,000 Bitcoin regardless of the Bitcoin price. We'll see.
Yeah, let's see what happened. But Saylor, all the things that were told before, that Saylor, that strategy will get liquidated, that they will sell the Bitcoin, Saylor is saying, guys, stop talking bullshit. I'm buying more, and I'm not going to stop buying Bitcoin anytime soon. So next one is what we were discussing previously. Strategy weekly purchase hits all-time high. During 2026, Strategy acquired more than 1,000 Bitcoin per day on average. This is a post from Adam Livingston. In 2020, Strategy bought 1,348 Bitcoin per week, of course, on average. 2021, 1,034 Bitcoin per week, almost the same amount they bought this week. 2022, 156 Bitcoin per week. 2023, 1,086 Bitcoin per week. 2024, 4,920 Bitcoin per week. And last year, 4,336 Bitcoin per week. This year is 7,649 Bitcoin per week, what gives an estimate of an average of more than 1,000 Bitcoin per day. Almost between 2 and 3 times all the Bitcoin mined every single day. This is insane. I don't know what is your point on that.
It's insane, and for me, it's even more insane if we compare with 2022, which was the bear market, the less bear market, the brutal bear market we had in 2022, and their ability now compared to the less bear market is like completely like obliterated. So they thought much deeper on how to navigate bear market and consolidation, and they said, yeah, we want to have this accumulation engine to work as much as possible in bull run, sure, but also on the when Bitcoin price drops. So to see 156 Bitcoin per week in 2022 and 7,600 now, for me, it's like the biggest takeaway from this chart, and it's very remarkable, very remarkable.
Also, the thing is that it proves a point, right? Because when all the Bitcoin treasury companies start struggling by the end of last year, when we still didn't even know that we were into a bear market, most people the argument that strategy will fail was, well, what is going to happen with the MNAV and with the acquisition of Bitcoin during the next bear market? And this is the best answer, because despite that we didn't want to go through that quickly into a bear market, this bear market it was helpful to prove that strategy can double down on the Bitcoin acquisition machine, even in the worst case scenario. So it removes that question forever, I think. Nobody's going to ask ever again what's going to happen with strategy in the next bear market. It's already proven.
Yeah, this is a good point from Marco that I haven't thought about. That in 2022 the bear market was, it's amazing how small amount they purchased per week, and now that we are in the middle, remember that in 2022 we didn't even have a war. We are in the middle of a war. We have in the middle of all the problems that Trump is doing with the tariffs, with all the things that they are doing. We are facing a lot of FUD against strategy, against Saylor, and they are proving that they will keep buying more no matter the conditions of the market. And this also proves the effectiveness of the other instruments that strategy have for raising capital. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I think it's the good summary. And for me, they were obsessed, especially Saylor was obsessed about finding a way to keep the engine going, even in the worst case scenario. So they preferred, it's like the diamond on their own products that they have, and Stretch is like the apex. And I think everything was rightfully done and with the right timing. And even after just 1 year and few months that the preferred are out there, they are proving that they are like an accumulation engine better than the convertible debts, better than the ATMs on MSTR, and yeah, those numbers speaks for themselves.
From the perspective of strategy of the Bitcoiners, the product is a success, right? Because it fulfilled this expectation that we want strategy to absorb fiat and convert it into Bitcoin. So that machine, from our point of view, is perfect.
Yeah.
Now, from the Wall Street point of view, these products are also one of the best things that can happen for people in Wall Street, because not only the preferred stock, but MSTR on itself bring the volume that no other company have. I mean, I think the volume now on MSTR is comparable to the volume of trading of the Max 7. Mm-hmm. It's nearby. And regarding the preferred stocks, the volume on this preferred stock is like 10, 20 times bigger than the second one, or the average of all the other shitty preferred stock from all other companies. So from both point of view, I think it's a success. It's a success story in any way.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's move to the other slide. Now we stop talking about Michael Saylor and strategy for a while. And we pass to Capital B. Capital B keeps growing its stack. The French company purchases another 44 Bitcoin and now holds 2,888 BTC. Oh, it's amazing what they are doing. Now it's the second larger European holder of Bitcoin. It's the first company that adopted a Bitcoin strategy in Europe. And we always talk about Alexander. He's a hardcore Bitcoiner. He understands a lot, and he is doing the exact playbook that Saylor is doing.
And the number is not a coincidence, right? 2888 is a lucky number. So I don't think it's a coincidence. They match it up for some reason there.
Yeah, for some feng shui reason, they match it up. And yes, they are doing an amazing job on Capital B. And by the way, Alexandre is going to be speaking at Bitcoin Treasuries and Conference. This is the conference that I will be attending, and I will be speaking in a panel. So if you want to go to smarterweb.uk to purchase the ticket, it's going to be on 29th of May in Bristol, United Kingdom. If you use the code Bitcoin, you will get a 10% discount. H100 wants to increase their Bitcoin stack to 3,500. The Swedish treasury company goes all in. I don't know, Marco, you wanted to talk about this. You told me on WhatsApp.
Yeah, I think not only on this, but in general about the Bitcoin treasury, the smaller one, because of course we always talk about strategy. Hopefully soon we can talk about XI. Hopefully soon we can talk about other of the bigger player. Nobody's big as strategy. No other company will ever be. But on the smaller side, let's say sub 5,000 BTC, what I'm really happy to see is that if you see the top 100, very, very few sold a portion of their Bitcoin. I would say out of the 100, maybe 3, 4, or 5. But the rest, 95, keep stacking more Bitcoin, or they are holding steadily. So for me, it's like another proof that even in a bear market, a pretty strong bear market on Bitcoin, the Bitcoin treasury space is not over. Those companies are not going bankrupt. Those companies are not capitulating or selling altogether the Bitcoin. Actually, quite the opposite. They are pretty stable, or they are, of course, reducing the volume and reducing the speed, but still capable of adding more stack to their balance sheet. So I think it's another FUD against all the doomers on the Bitcoin on corporation, which for me is nonsense. And I'm very happy to see also H100, Capital B, Smarter Web Company, and few others that are capable of increasing more and try to have a reasonable target this time. Because if you remember, guys, like a couple of years ago, they said, yeah, I want to buy 210,000 from Metaplanet, 20. They were a bit too much. I think this case, we start to see like very reasonable numbers, and I think it's pretty healthy overall. So yeah, I think it's great to see.
Yes, and I think that this is, in engineering, they call it stress test, when something needs to be tested under hard conditions to see that if it's good or bad. Now we can see that these treasury companies are under a huge stress test, with Bitcoin dropping to like probably 2024 or less levels, and they are still holding. No one of them went bankruptcy. Some, like just few of them, sold their Bitcoin stack, and most of them, they are not all also holding, they are increasing their stack. And with the flagship that is strategy, accumulating much, much more Bitcoin than even in the bull market. So this is an amazing stress test for all the doomers, for all the FUD around the Bitcoin treasury companies, that shows that this model is successful.
Yes, and it's a good point. Now we can also track that how many companies, we should put it as a KPI, as a percentage. How many of the treasury companies actually sell the Bitcoin? So Marco commented that it was something like 3 out of the top 100.
Yeah.
So we can infer that probably 3 to 5% of the companies that say they are going to do a Bitcoin treasury company eventually are going to sell their Bitcoin because either they are in financial stress or because they never had the confidence in first place. Among this group, I would put what is the first company that Saylor convinced? GMI. Remember GMI, GameStop?
Yeah.
Was on the news like a year or so ago because Saylor met with the CEO, I don't remember the name, and apparently Saylor convinced him to move into GameStop into Bitcoin strategy. So at the time, I was reading the post and I wanted to be more informed about who is the guy. And very quickly I realized that guy is not going to respect because that guy never even understood Bitcoin after having a conversation with Saylor, just for the things that he was talking online. It just looked like a shitcoiner or someone that doesn't actually care about Bitcoin. But maybe he did it at the beginning to have some kind of extra traction from the internet for GameStop, which was a stock that actually became popular on the internet. So maybe he was thinking, well, now I can go with these guys, the Bitcoiners, and they will help me to push our company up again. But that never happened. The stock never moved after they bought the Bitcoin. And I think even they sold at some part. So that's one case. There would be people, obviously, that they don't have the confidence or the understanding, but the majority of them, they actually do have the conviction, and they will never sell the Bitcoin, even if they have to go through very stressful, hard conditions like this terrible bear market. So it's a very, very good stress test. Even most of them right now are with MNAVs below 1, and they're still finding ways to keep increasing the stack. Even though if they couldn't increase the stack, it's still, remember, it's still a very good strategy to just hold the Bitcoin you have on your balance sheet. That's good enough already to be better than a traditional company. So that's my point.
Yes. But again, we have a good stress test for all the industry, and the CEOs of these companies are showing the real conviction on Bitcoin, especially on not selling and also accumulating more. And that's amazing. And this happened, I can say about Saylor because he's the one, but every time I speak with Andrew Webley, every time I speak with Alexander Lyset, or every time I speak with any kind of CEO of a Bitcoin treasury company, you see their conviction. You see that they are real Bitcoiners, and they can stick with a plan and sail through these rough waters.
Yeah.
So let's move to the next one. Metaplanes launches card with rewards in Bitcoin. Shareholders now can get a card and recover 1.6% on the spendings in Bitcoin. I don't know if this is true or this is bullshit.
I completely missed this news, actually.
So, I haven't heard this.
I was checking it. I checked on Twitter. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think about that? This is true or this can be bullshit?
Without doing any research yet, it might be true, but just for the kind of the post, it looks like bullshit. Why? Because we've been watching this morning on the Spanish show that these kind of posts are 50% of the time bullshit. They will put the Bitcoin logo and a flag of a country, and they will say, Brazil now soon to go after Bitcoin. Thailand, now they're in talks to have Bitcoin. Whatever it is, they use the excuse of the flag and the Bitcoin logo to get engagement. And this post looks like that. The Bitcoin logo and the Metaplanet on the other side this news about the car. Maybe someone eventually have talked about it on some podcast or somewhere, and then they pick it up. We will have to do a deeper research about this.
Yeah, but it caught my attention.
Yeah, I think Cointelegraph, as you said, Diego, many times have done just this poor post on Twitter just to try to get click attention, or maybe they have a junior analyst or junior journalist or AI now probably just preparing and just publish for them those kind of articles. It seems to me pretty weird that Metaplanet will launch any type of card reward. It's not their business model. They're like, maybe it's a card for their own hotel in Tokyo for having some kind of cashback if you book. But again, it seems pretty far from Simon, Dylan, and all the team about why they are doing this conversion into Bitcoin. For me, they have much more bigger stuff to deal than creating a card for 1.6 cashback. I would assume so. I would dismiss this news.
Yes, totally agree on that. I think that we have discovered that this kind of posts are 50% or more bullshit.
Yeah.
And talking about nothing related to treasuries, but this is institutional capital. March inflows erase 2026 outflows. The ETFs are back. With the inflows that ETF produced on March, they erased all the ETFs outflows that happened since the beginning of 2026. And also IBIT is now ranked among the top 2% of the ETF, of all the ETFs in the world. So I don't know what are your points on that, or if you want to add something.
I mean, the ETFs, we need to learn and to communicate people that it's inflows and outflows are constantly moving in and out, obviously. So the important thing to realize is that it was on the news that the ETFs were losing traction in the last month during the drop of Bitcoin. And they want to probably make it look like Bitcoin is dead, the ETFs are dead, they're going to zero. When it's just simply the flow of the things. Naturally, there will be months where the outflows are bigger than the inflows. The next month is going to flip. Eventually, what is important to notice is that the ETF have grown massively from the beginning to over 800,000 Bitcoin. And that trend will continue independently if February or January were bad months. So that's my point on that.
Yeah, maybe I would add that I'm pretty surprised about how resilient the holders of Bitcoin via the ETFs actually have been through the last months, because Bitcoin has been down 52% from the all-time high to the bottom, but still the outflows and the general sentiment on the ETF actually probably is much better than the general sentiment on X. So let's say the long-term investor in TradFi, maybe people with money in the US with more than 50, 55 years prefer using the ETF because for them it's much more easy. It's just one call to the broker. Again, we are not saying that holding the ETF is real Bitcoin. We are not saying that holding ETF is better than Bitcoin in cold storage. Absolutely not. But it's still a new vehicle. They have BlackRock almost 900,000 Bitcoin. The US ETF almost 1.3 million. And I think they've been very resilient. They've been hodlers, similar to all of us. And I'm pretty surprised because when they launched in February 2024, I was pretty sure that at the first drop, they will just drop with them and so just exit the instrument, which actually is not true. So they show very, very resiliency. And I think it's another case why Bitcoin will succeed, because the traditional cypherpunk, the cohort of retail, companies and now also the general ETF investors are very strong-minded to keep this asset. And I think it's a very good point moving forward.
Excellent. So for this time, I have no more slide to share. You wanted to share something else, right, Marco?
Yeah, maybe, Fernando, let me share one post from River. Maybe it's this one here, which I think it's, again, pretty interesting. I think we talked about this topic last week, but I think it's very important to stressing it out again. So let me share here.
Yes.
So I think this post is, again, of course, when we select the time frame, it's always relative, but most of the time, gold people, the traditionally, the traditional finance people always attack on us because we select the wrong time frame. So, but from the start of the Iran conflict, Bitcoin outperformed almost everything. And to be honest, River pointed out that Bitcoin normally outperform everything when there is this kind of massive bad news, like war-related news, the pandemic, the banking crisis. So every time there is a big shock and a massive issue, in the short term after, Bitcoin is a flight to safety, we can say, especially considering those seven events spanning from 2020 to 2026, in which almost in all of them, apart from one in 2024, Bitcoin was the best performer. So again, I think we will see this transition. It might take many more years. It might take maybe even a decade, but Bitcoin will be seen as the stable asset. It will be seen as the flight to safety for many people in countries in which we have maybe dictatorship, in which we have capital control, in which we have war. And I think it starts to be 7 statistical points in which Bitcoin is really outperforming everything, which from us is obvious, but for the majority of the population is still might still be unclear.
Yes, it's still weird to me because we didn't have that feeling that in the last month, particularly during this bear market, that Bitcoin was reacting positively to financial global news. We didn't have that feeling. In fact, it looks like gold do what Bitcoin should have been doing. So it was like we were lagging on the gold response to the conflict before. I'm talking before the Iran, right? Then when the Iran conflict triggers, things seems to have flipped. Like gold have a big, massive drop, silver too, while Bitcoin now seems to be performing as it's shown in that table. So let's see if that is a permanent thing or what. I'm still not very clear with it, but yeah, when you see the history, it's pretty undeniable that Bitcoin is the better hedge.
Yeah, especially on the short term after. That's kind of their point. And of course, over the long term, we know that it's the best performer over the long run, but sometimes it's also has been attacked by many that in the short term, Bitcoin is always dumping when you have this kind of news. And the data actually contradicts this statement. And I think this one from River is pretty clear.
For example, I don't know if you have something else about this, Marco. Otherwise, I will share something.
No. I think it's fine for me.
Okay, because it's related to this topic, which is the reaction to war. Let me see if I can find what happened on Monday with Trump posting. So
I think that probably while Diego searches that, I want to say my point. What it happened, the sensation that Bitcoin does not respond good when this event happened, is because of the first reaction. We all remember when this event happened, as Bitcoin is the most liquid asset, the reaction is that it's going down immediately, but then recovers and outperforms everything. It happened on the Saturday when Trump attacked Iran. Bitcoin crashed, but then recovered. So yeah, this is a great analysis.
So how does it look on the screen? All right, so talking about the reaction of Bitcoin to war, right? So the theory and what that table that Marco shows implies is that in the middle of the conflict, Bitcoin should go up. In this graph, in particularly in 3 minutes, when this happened, is the opposite to that. Because what happened here is, this is Hong Kong time, so translated to whatever time zone you are. But on Monday, 6:23 p.m. Hong Kong time, Trump made this post in Truth Social saying something like, we are in talks with Iran, so the conflict is going to be resolved. We are going to stop any aggression for 5 days or some kind of bullshit like that. So that happened at 6:23. Then 25 minutes later, at 6:50, around 6:50 p.m., they realized that that post has a little grammatical error, so they remove it. But what happened when, during that time, when the post was live in Truth Social, the price of oil dropped from 99 to 98 or something. So in 20 minutes, someone made a little profit there on that movement. On the other hand, Bitcoin on the bottom graph didn't do much during that time, just remained flat. Like nobody cares in Bitcoin ecosystem about Truth Social. But at 7:03 p.m. Hong Kong time, at 6:50, the post was fixed on Truth Social, go live again, and at 7:03 it goes live on X, and it went viral. So immediately when people pick it up on X, the price of oil dropped 13% in 3 minutes. 13% in 3 minutes, just with the post about the war is being stopped, at least for now. So it has a positive reaction on oil. And at the same time, obviously, oil and Bitcoin are inversely correlated. So the price of Bitcoin goes from 68,500 to 71K in 7 minutes, following a perfect opposite reaction to oil. So that's kind of what contradicts the overall analysis that Bitcoin do well during wartime. In this case, Bitcoin react good to the news of the war is over. It wasn't the opposite. It wasn't like Trump saying, now we are dropping a nuclear bomb, and then on a war case, Bitcoin pump. It was exactly the opposite. This is obviously in a very short time frame. This is what it happened in 3 minutes, right? So overall, yeah, the graph that Marco showed before, it matched reality on the longer time frame. But this one in particular show how crazy everything is and how much interconnected Bitcoin is to the macroeconomy. Because this one, I don't even believe there is people that saw the post in X and then go to Binance, open an account, and start trading Bitcoin or trading oil on an exchange or on a broker. This is just algorithmic trading. It has been performed automatically, no doubt. See, there is all these bots scanning the sentiment on the market. They saw when the post from Trump on X pick up enough volume, and then it triggers a sell on oil. Immediately, also it triggers a buy order in Bitcoin. And this is massive volume. In order to move the market like that, 13% in oil, 7% in Bitcoin in minutes, we are talking about here billions of dollars deployed in a matter of minutes. Because consider what happened when every time Saylor buys 30,000 Bitcoin, the market don't give a fuck. Bitcoin don't even react, but it does react to a post on X. Isn't that crazy?
And isn't even true that after some Iranian official said that, I mean, kind of negate this tweet, and so maybe it's
100%.
kind of, yeah. I think markets are really manipulated, especially if you follow via Twitter, because when something is on Twitter, for me, it's already old. When something is on the mainstream media, it's very, very old. So if retail and people thinks to be ahead of the game just because they are on Twitter, they don't know what they're doing. They're old by hours, like in this case, or old by days or weeks on other news. Because again, it's live, yes, but for people that already should know those kind of information firsthand, they knew it in advance. So, but again, yeah, it's impressive that, especially for me, seeing oil dropping like 13% in 3 minutes is, I don't know. I think it's very, very rare. Maybe we saw it during COVID that the future went negative. It was completely obliteration, but that was like a one probably in a millennia event. But again, 13% for oil, it tells me that nothing is safe out there, and so Bitcoin.
Nothing is real also, because imagine if this post would have been true, maybe, but it was totally faked. Like
Totally fabricated.
the Iranian response was something like, "We didn't have any talk with Trump. It's just bullshit to manipulate the market." Exactly. There you have it. That's why we actually have an AI agent doing this research for us. So he picked it up for me. Otherwise, I couldn't even have. Obviously, I noticed the pump on Bitcoin that day, but I'm not following the oil market every minute. So with an AI agent, actually, we can track this to the minute, and it was clear that it's an algorithmic reaction to a post on X, because after that it recovers like half of it, right? It dropped 13%, and then it recovers something like 6%, which is exactly what happened. They open immediately with the post. The bots open shorts on oil once they have it, and then the rest of the market start reacting. They start closing the positions, so the price recover. Similar in Bitcoin, it immediately opens long positions on Bitcoin. It dropped in it rises in 7 minutes, 4 or 5%, and then when everybody starts seeing the news and trying to take action, then they start doing the sell-off. So it sell off from 71 to 69 in the following 10 minutes or something like that. So this is all algorithmic trading based on fake news. Congratulations, guys. Welcome to the real world.
Can I share something before we move forward to Marco that I discovered? Apparently, MetaPlanet thing was not bullshit. This is from the official MetaPlanet Twitter account, and I analyzed it with Grok, and it says MetaPlanet, a Tokyo-listed billionaire, announced an exclusive credit card for shareholders returning 1.6% of spending in Bitcoin, launching summer 2026 to blend everyday payments with long-term Bitcoin accumulation.
So it's for shareholders only. It's not like a product open to the market.
No, of course, but I am a shareholder of MetaPlanet. So, but I think it must be for Japanese.
Possible, yes.
That's it.
Let's see. So, let me close this.
Yeah, thank you, Fernando, for pointing out again, so that we have the complete news on this one. Yeah.
Excellent. So, Marco, do you want to share anything else?
No, I think it's fine.
Okay.
1 hour, so we saw so many topics. hopefully people can reach out to us, comments, or if something was not analyzed in depth, maybe we can do something more on the other episode. But I think we had a pretty big conversation today.
Excellent, Marco. So how people can contact you?
Yeah, mainly on X at Battistoshi93. And if people want, I just wrote recently my second article, which got some traction, and about Bitcoin being still the best asymmetrical bet on financial markets. So if they are interested on exploring why and my thesis and our thesis overall as Bitcoiners, it's very, an article very easy to read and for also for beginners and in, let's say, intermediate. And I would say that Bitcoin is still the largest asymmetrical bet. We see it. Hopefully, many more people will see it soon, and we can, as you said, Fernando, paint the world orange. So.
Yes, you shared with me this when I was at the airport on Sunday. So I paid a read, and then I pick up the article and turn into a presentation in Spanish for my usually my Sunday Spanish stream, and I like to talk about that because it's really goes in deep with the basics and the fundamentals. Because with Diego, usually on the everyday stream that we do, we don't go so in deep on the fundamentals because we try to catch the attention of newbies that they don't care too much on the fundamentals. But on Sundays, I like to go a little bit philosophical and talk about fundamental and crazy stuff for hardcore Bitcoiners. So yeah, I suggest go to Marco Twitter profile and read it. And how's everything in Indonesia?
Everything is doing great. Actually, I've done the presentation that we had together on Bitcoin, why Bitcoin is a superior technology, and the history of money here in Bitcoin House in Bali. Hopefully, I will have more occasion over the next weeks to do more presentation also with them and to have some collaboration. Indonesia for merchant and for adoption at the individual level is pretty advanced on Bitcoin. There are many events, many activities also organized by the local government. And in September, they usually have a big conference for 1 week in the whole island of Bali. So I think it's a very good ecosystem. And so for every Bitcoiner listening, if you want to travel in Southeast Asia, if you want to have a glimpse on it, you should go definitely to Bali and the Bitcoin House because it's a nice place. Also for technical expertise, they have a session for developers, session for new people. It's very diverse. It's a very nice place.
Yes, you've been in Thailand last year. I remember when I had the podcast with you for first time, you were here in Thailand. I didn't see any Bitcoin adoption yet. I am trying to search for places that and I can pay with Bitcoin and I cannot. You've been here. Do you think that there are or is not developed in Thailand? Because I heard that Thailand was super developed on Bitcoin side, all the people paying Bitcoin, or of course the expat, and there are many shops accepting Bitcoin. Haven't found yet. Maybe it's the zone I'm staying.
Yeah, I think in Chiang Mai in the north, you have a big community that is pretty popular. In Phuket, I think over the last year, they should have announced some kind of adoption. I mean, incentivize crypto adoption. I'm not sure if it's Bitcoin only. I would say more crypto adoption for payments without, I think, capital gain tax or something for foreigners. I think in Bangkok mainly you can have big events, but again, majority is crypto events or blockchain or shitcoin. Very little on Bitcoin only. But yes, I think in the north in Chiang Mai, the community on Bitcoiners and developer is pretty strong. Yeah,
I talked with Jimmy from the Chiang Mai Bitcoin community. When Diego is here in Thailand, for sure, we will pay a visit to Chiang Mai and visit the Shimi because I saw on videos on what he's doing and it's really, really amazing. So Marco, thank you very much for your time. Immortal, thank you very much for your time. See you next week.
See you guys.
See you.
And I hope, Marco, that next week when we talk, Italy is finally in the World Cup.
Finger crossed. Let's see. I'm not
Let's
very
see.
optimistic, but yes.
Thank you very much, everyone who is on the other side. If you like the episode, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, follow us on social media, follow Marco on social media, because doing so, you help us a lot to paint the world orange. See you next week. Have a good day. And this is not financial advice. If you have some spare money, buy Satoshis. Thank you.